right, guys, you ready for the next panel? We've had some good panels today, some great chats, and we have another virtual guest joining us here in just a minute. This panel is about Bansky style, which I have been researching online and also chatting with them to learn a little bit about it. I'm sure they're going to tell you a lot more. This is going to be a lot of discussion about gaming, entertainment, and music, I believe, right? Okay. So we have our moderator is Anne McKinnon. She is founder and XR consultant for the Boolean. And the Boolean is analyzing to make the best of tomorrow's technologies. She's an expert in immersive tech, working with clients on groundbreaking projects at the intersection of gaming X, entertainment X, Metaverse X, and innovation. As a journalist, Anne reports on the current state of deep tech. She travels the world seeing the most cutting-edge breakthroughs in art, technology, and media, interviewing leading executives, bootstrap startups, artists, and engineers to build an accurate picture of the immersive technology ecosystem and where it may end up. And that's great. So I actually am a journalist as well, so. So thank you all for being here today. Remember, this is the gaming and location-based entertainment track. We will be doing these panels the whole rest of the afternoon. And this panel is going to last about 50 minutes. They will have an opportunity for you to ask questions at the end. When they go to ask questions, please make sure that you actually do use the mic in the middle because we're recording and otherwise we won't hear it. So you guys have fun, and I'll be there if you need me.
Thank you. Does everyone hear me okay? Awesome. Who here has been to a virtual concert in the last year? We'll leave that definition open at the moment. Awesome. This is very exciting. So we're going to focus a lot in the changes that have happened over the last year and a half. When South by Southwest was canceled last year, it was devastating, not just for artists, but creators, for people's teams on music side, but also from across the world in many different industries. From there, the live music industry lost about 50% of their revenue from tickets and merch overnight. Artists were left without touring circuits. They weren't able to reach their audiences. It was very, very, very difficult for more than just artists, but their teams who are used to making a living off of being able to reach their fans. On the other hand, gaming and music have a very deep connected history together. The history of music and the history of tech are very connected. The way that we interact in online games is very natural to the way that we interact in live music experiences. They're the mechanisms, the way we interact, the way we experience, and the way we socialize. It was natural that music would make a movement to these virtual worlds and games. So today we have an amazing panel from people from very diverse backgrounds, from building virtual worlds, from music rights and law, to investing in this space. So we're going to hear from across these perspectives and learn what's happening, where it's all going, and how you can be a part of it today. So let Liz Moody, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Liz Moody. I've been working at the intersection of music and tech for about 20 years, pretty much right after the Napster era. I advise, both as a lawyer and sort of business strategy advisor, licensing of music startups, and really at the intersection of music, media, and tech. I had a 10-year stint in-house at companies like YouTube, running music at YouTube in the early days, and Pandora, running licensing there, a few other companies. And now I'm back working with tech startups across gaming, the Metaverse. I work with NFT platforms, and also in the live streaming space. Most notably, I'm the GC of Wave XR. I can talk a little bit more about that because I think it's quite relevant for our conversation. Wave just announced today that we're having an interactive virtual live stream with Justin Bieber on November 18th, which will be pretty cool to see. So yeah, I'm excited to talk to you all about it.
Thank you. Yeah, big round of applause.
Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel Solopov. I'm working at Sensorium as a head of strategic business development and innovation. As part of my job description is work with strategic partners, and also I'm heading the mobile app division. to expand the VR experiences to mixed reality and mobile experiences. So everything to do with mobile is I'm doing at Sensorium, from concept to implementation. So I'm very glad to be here, and good to see you all. Thank you.
Oh, we have one more panelist joining us on screen. Do we have her here? Do we have Shara on screen?
Yes.
Yes? Wonderful. Hey, Shara.
Hi.
I don't know if you were able to hear us just now, but we'd love for you to introduce yourself quickly.
Of course, I'm Shara Senderoff, and I founded a venture fund focused on music and tech about 4 years ago with Scooter Braun. We are primarily focused on our third partner being Ripple. So we came into the blockchain ecosystem about 4 years ago with a focus on how can we educate, translate, and better close the gap between music and tech, obviously, and Liz can speak to it and will. There's a lot of complications within the music industry relating to technology, especially Web3 around rights and rights management and royalty payments and technology that can massively change the way the music industry functions. And that is not an easy thing to accomplish. It requires a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of passion. And so we set out to invest into music technology companies that can ultimately change the future of the music industry and raise the value of music, whether that be creating new revenue streams or ultimately zeroing in on the ROI of the way we spend dollars in the music business. There's a lot of technology that can massively is and will help to create much better opportunities in that space. So I'm heavily focused on all things gaming, Metaverse, Web3, founders, and opportunities that can really change the way we interact with music.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. I think what's super interesting here is we have the combination of blockchain and virtual worlds, game mechanics, and also the way that artists can monetize. So whether you want to focus on how these experiences are creating value for the music industry and also how they're creating value for the platforms that are creating the toolkits and technology for these events to take place. So Sensorium, you guys have yet to launch.
Yeah.
Very mysterious in many ways, but also very much looking at things that we didn't think might be possible in 1 or 2 years, such as interactive ARs, characters within the world, blockchain and token systems. You're very much focusing on big EDM stars as well. So in what way are you creating value for the music industry that might go beyond your top level stars?
So basically, as you say, we focus first on top-level stars, just to show as a use case and attract users as well. And as a value proposition, we want to basically to create the platform which allows all these creative minds, musicians, dancers, and all the entertainment industry to reinvent the creativity itself by pushing the boundaries what's possible. Mm-hmm. So as a kind of metaverse experience in entertainment, with the focus on entertainment, we don't want to mirror the real life experience. So we don't want to recreate the concerts in our virtual environment. We want to create magic, so we want to do something else and different, and basically expand what is completely possible. And the value here for the artists is that they can do whatever, pretty much what they want there without hindering the access to the creativity and attending the concerts or attending the events with them, and so many things beyond that that we else to find out.
Yeah, it's definitely true. We're all learning about what is a virtual concert. Same with when we see the evolution from the very first Fortnite concert with Marshmello to Ariana Grande, which is more like an interactive music video. We're seeing this progression of the fan experience, but also how the artists are taking these new tools to create new music experiences. And going back to Shara quickly too, because she has so many insights from working with startups groundbreaking in this space, I'd love to hear about from her, like what are some of the new rituals being created around these live music experiences, and how can we take everything that is amazing about live music experience and translate that into a very engaging online experiences that creates value for that platform, but also for the artists.
So interestingly enough, I invested into Wave. So I stand on the other side of Liz on it, but I'm a proud investor of what they're doing. And I think to give a little bit of color from my end on that platform is the Wave came in and created an opportunity for an artist to show up in more of an engaging manner with a full virtual 3D experience that they couldn't get from simply the live streaming version of a concert that we saw happen at the beginning of COVID. Once COVID hit, and like you mentioned, one of our 3-lane highways, one of our lanes of touring was completely gone. And so music artists turned instantly to just performing over video. And then it became, well, we have to add some added components of that so that there's a two-way street so that fans can engage with us. They can show us their fandom by buying into digital collectible opportunities, to be able to walk away from a show with something that is of value, to be able to raise their hand literally and figuratively as one of the super fans of a particular artist. So the Wave was one of the first platforms that really focused on creative first, being able to bring to life an artist's entire brand and then create layers and tiers of opportunities for fans to engage at varying price points for free, whatever it may be that's right for them, to actually come closer to the artist and have an experience that feels like, again, it's a two-way street. So I think that's an incredible example of how the virtual performance and the virtual concert has come to life, and it's completely live. The artist is performing while you're watching it. You're just watching it obviously through an incredibly beautiful 3D experience.
This is a question then for both you and for Liz, but do you think the music industry is ready for these new behaviors, both in gaming platforms, but also in blockchain?
I'll say I think what's really exciting is watching the artist become excited about the space. And I think that the creators and the performers in the music industry are going to lead maybe the bigger companies into the space. Some of the bigger companies are already excited about it, but I talk to and work with artists as well as tech companies. And you know, at the beginning of COVID, they all lost their primary source of direct revenue, if not their only, because most of the money artists get are from record labels or music publishers. They're not getting that direct connection or payment from their fans unless they're performing live. So what the Metaverse will do, and is already starting to do, like what Wave is doing, is allowing them to make money directly from fans, but also to connect directly with those fans. Like at the Bieber show, as an example, the fans are going to be able to sign up to actually connect directly with Bieber in a way that they probably wouldn't be able to unless they paid a ton of money for some kind of VIP experience in real life. There are actual real additional experiences that you can give to fans and to artists in the Metaverse that you can't even do in real life. So that's pretty exciting. I do think they're ready. I think we have some room to grow, but I think that artists are going to lead the way. I'm excited about watching them connect directly with fans, making money directly from virtual merch, from real merch, from NFTs and collectibles, like Shara mentioned, and also even just in blockchain-based payment structures, where fans can even pay the artist directly. So there's a lot that we're really at the beginning stages of watching the music industry and the gaming industries work together, hopefully.
Entirely. I think that gamers aren't always, well, most gamers I'd say are music fans, but not all music fans will be gamers. So also as we're designing these platforms for these fan experiences, it becomes very important about thinking about the consumer journey and what value does this give to music fans who might not necessarily understand or have had previous interest in virtual worlds. So as Sensorium is building out this new world and looking at the audiences that you are building the platform for, how have you guys decided to, who is the primary audience you guys are building for, and how do you see that growing in the future?
Well, good question. We actually have a multi-audience approach, and because we have two platforms, in a way, it's XR platform altogether divided by VR and the mobile platform with the AR capabilities. So for mobile platform, we may have slightly different audience in a way, rather than a AAA VR experience, because simply because of the access and the equipment you need to access that. But we basically working on creating a mobile VR experience and converting full AAA to mobile VR, and working with in partnership with the various tech companies to achieve that. And in terms of who we target right now is basically mostly Gen Z audience, gamers, tech savvy people, and those VR enthusiasts. And we also have a pretty good crowd of crypto followers, and they also waiting for the release of the product. And we have been able to pilot our mobile application MVP with some virtual beings and some dance creation performances for social media, and as part of creativity we do, and people already use the product and quite excited about it. So we kind of exploring more closely right now what our true audience will be by the time when we launch our first concert.
Mm-hmm. I think this is definitely gets in the question too about what is going to succeed, and it's very challenging to build a startup and also to develop that timeline when you're going to work with such big stars as well, when such a broad audience is going to come to your first events.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And also, the VR is still not very accessible, although we have Oculus Quest 2, and if we talk about full-fledged amazing experiences with AAA quality, it's not very accessible. It's like 3 million people on Steam VR right now, and good we have Oculus Quest 2, and we basically aim to get to this fairly soon. So hopefully it happens.
And on the topic too of measuring success, this is a question for Shara. When you're looking at startups in this space, especially maybe tech companies that are approaching the music industry, or music professionals who are trying to get into tech, what are the ways that you can measure the, future success, or how do you say this is an A-level investment? What are the things that you look for?
I think that as we allow Web3 to unfold and recognize that it's so much in its infancy, I think that it's about founders who understand how fast the speed of the industry is moving and how fast the technology is moving, and yet that we're still in a very early stage of what can be done. Therefore, I think, and this is sort of a cliche answer, but it's the reality, which is that a founder has to be able to be dynamic enough to shift very, very quickly, but also stay very much on top of the pace with which the industry is moving, and constantly be looking to the bigger picture of what are the KPIs? Is it about mass adoption? Is it about audience growth? Is it about interoperability? Is it about revenue? What is it specifically that you're trying to achieve? And how are you going to introduce new technology to mainstream consumers in a way that will actually retain them? And what does that mean to you? So it's not different than how most VCs would evaluate particular opportunities, but I do think that the speed with which the industry is moving is definitely going to separate the founders that can keep up and the founders that have a good strategy as to how to keep up and how to also stay focused at the same time. But we're starting to see, which is incredibly, incredibly exciting, a lot of the companies of 2-3 years ago who were pitching concepts that everyone was a bit looking at them like they had 10 heads, now looking at them like they were really onto something. So it's incredibly exciting as to where we are and the incredible ideas and passion that are coming out of entrepreneurs. It's like invigorated a new life into investing that is incredibly exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of activity happening in this space, and we don't know what the future will look like, but right now it's very much defining what is going to work and what are the limits of technology. I think one of the very interesting things is the limitations within games. So when you talk about there being 12 million attendees at a Fortnite concert, you can still only have maximum of 40 people in one version of that game instance. But if you have 40 people attend a concert in real life, it's a failure, very much so. So there's all sorts of challenges on the technical side, also on blockchain with the latency that occurs. How can you have these real-time transactions taking place when you have congested networks on the blockchain side? So all these technologies are coming together now. We have a perfect convergence for these new opportunities like Sensorium, and also like the companies that Liz and Char are working with. And Liz, this is something that you and Char talked about just now too, but there's a lot of challenges, but also a lot of opportunities, the new way that partnerships are being formed. Can you give us a bit of insights into how these partnerships are working between tech and with music and with gaming in this new era?
Yeah, I think that we've been talking a lot about live events and how live music events in video games really kind of was the first step during COVID. I think now that the world's opened up a bit more, I'm finding, and actually a lot of the reason, at least from a music rights perspective, a lot of the reason that those events remained live is because it was easier. The artist had more control, they could hop online, and there were a fewer set of rights that needed to be licensed to have a live stream going. It was a little quicker. But now that things are opening up a bit, and the tech companies and game developers want to address music, incorporating music into their games in different ways, I think it's really making it necessary for the music industry and the gaming industry to try to work together more. And it's, we're at the beginning stages of it. I'm involved in a lot of conversations. I think there's some desire on both, from the part of both industries to really work together. I mean, the music industry is much smaller, right, than the massive gaming industry, especially where it's growing in the future. The music industry leaders, and especially artists, see where their fans are. They're going to be in the Metaverse. Right now they're in video games, and that's how they're discovering music, and they're also hanging out with their friends. So if they can be in a place where their fans are hanging out with their friends and that they become one of their friends, isn't that a really cool experience? But it doesn't always have to be live, and that's where more rights come into play. When you make copies of content and you make it available later, or you do rebroadcasts, then you need to get into the gamers need to have conversations with the rights owners, who are the record labels and the music publishers. There's a little bit of a push-pull right now in terms of who's going to share the dollars. There's only so much money that a fan is going to spend, and the artist should be getting most of that, right? I mean, especially if it's a live performance. But of course, all of the gaming development work that's happening is expensive, and the gamers need to see a piece of that, as well as the record labels and music publishers. So there's a tension right now to work out new business. It's really all new business models. There's no law kind of driving the rules. So I think we'll see a lot of initial sort of simpler music models in video games to start, and then it's going to get much more interesting. I mean, imagine you're playing a video game and you can personalize we're seeing some of this where you can personalize your experience through like an emote that gets streamed to all your friends who are playing at the same time as you, and it's a personalized ringtone type experience. That's just like the first example of something that is actually pretty heavily negotiated on the right side, but creates a good experience, I think, in the gaming side.
Yeah, you bring up really great points about the value gap between what platforms are bringing in and versus what artists are bringing in, and how they can make a sustainable living from having their music distributed or their act performed on these platforms. And I think Sensorium, you guys talk a lot about the creator economy in your white paper. Yeah. And I think it's very, very interesting because, especially because you're working with these top tier artists, but you're also focusing on a peer-to-peer network of creators. So I'd love to learn more about how you approach to the business in your platform.
So basically, we have two types of kind of creator forms of economy. So the one side is artist-generated content. So these are the shows and in the future indie musicians and dance performers, and they create their content, and this will be basically integrated into the blockchain economy. We have our own NFT, Wakata, just launched recently. And on the other side, we have user-generated content. And here we have not only users who play or attend the concerts. They buy virtual goods. They own basically the NPCs who can be dynamically changed in the game. And they can sell them. They can sell the goods or memes they create with them or the content they create with them. And also we have other type of user-generated content, which is basically freelancers or creatives who can create those avatars, those visuals or items, in-game items, etc., etc. So basically, this is kind of complex infrastructure which is built upon what we want to be a marketplace with integrated NFT and Wakata.
Yeah, you guys are really doing, I'm so curious to try this out, so I really look forward to your prototype events. This fall, I believe there's one?
We actually have moved our event to spring.
Okay.
And we aim to get the early access to the event maybe in January.
Can everyone here attend in the spring?
Depends. We need to apply. Stay with us.
There you go. And going back to Shara as well, I think especially interesting with the Facebook Meta announcements this week and the way we see a lot of social platforms becoming a lot more dominant, and TikTok as well, the behaviors of the algorithms and how they work and how audiences' attentions are very specific across different platforms. I think my question for Shara is, do you think that we're going to see one music metaverse or music platform that is really the go-to, or do you think there are going to be multiple platforms and multiple spaces like in Fortnite and Roblox that share these different performance-based systems and experiences, but really cater to different types of artists and the creative outlets based on the aesthetics of the platform?
So I do think it's going to be multiple. I think that we're headed more for a multiverse than a metaverse. And the metaverse has been definitely sort of misconceived to be one singular place. I absolutely think it's going to be multiple places. And the reason for that is because there's just not a one size fits all when it comes to music artists. It's about how it's what they authentically are as a human and also within their music that will dictate how they show up creatively. And so the way to sing this, way of seeing that there are certain artists that are willing to put in what it takes to do a virtual performance within their ecosystem. And then there are others that might be approached and just have no interest in doing something like that. So I think we're going to see the ability for artists to show up in places that feel right for them, both in the multiverse and in the physical world, like we have seen prior to the rise of where we're at now. But I also think that that's amazing. I think that there's a leveling of the playing field of creatives as a whole that is definitely injecting the music business with a new way of looking at how a particular artist interacts with both creative talent and then also the platform with which it gets executed. We're seeing the rise of the actual illustrators. This is much more so in the NFT space, but the illustrators and the graphic designers and all of the creatives that have been hidden behind some of the biggest, most famous album art and single art that we've seen from our biggest artists are now able to come forward as their own creators and their own artists, creating and putting out NFT collections that now the artists themselves can participate in buying, and the manner with which it's flipping the business model and truly bringing out what it means to be decentralized. I think that means that the centralization of the social networks as we know it is going to change significantly. And I think that's what everyone wants to see happen. More places for people to show up how they want to authentically.
Do you think that we've got a lot of challenges here, and I think there's also the communication, language, and business models between the music industry and the gaming industry, which is like music rights, influencing music rights, the way partnerships are formed, and also the way that business models are formed on these platforms. The role of music labels, I think, is going to change a lot in this space, but they're not always the first to innovate. And this is, again, maybe going back to Shara quickly, especially with your history in music industry. Where do you see like these different roles of like labels and managers and A&Rs? Will they have a role in these games and music metaverses going forward?
Yeah, I think that Liz mentioned it and said it spot on earlier when she said it will be driven by the artists. It will also be driven by the managers and the creatives and the A&Rs. And I think that the method with which we see sort of the next version of a record label, or more of the decentralized version of an artist generating revenue by selling their music or collectibles directly to their fan base, and therefore generating a level of income or stability that they haven't been able to before without needing the advance of a record label. That will be entirely designed by the motivation and determination of the teams. But I do think that it's creating opportunities for so many people to be entrepreneurial, and also for structures to change in so many areas of the business, not only from the right side, but in team side. We've seen kind of the history of the music business has been a standard commission-based structure, even for a manager who's doing a lot of the heavy lifting for an artist. With the rise of DAOs, we're seeing structures of teams change. We're seeing just in general the ability for fans to participate in income streams and for them to be rewarded for the things that they do to drive revenue for an artist. And it's not simple. Like Liz mentioned, the rights situation is very, very nuanced, and that makes it very, very complicated, but it is changing in an amazing way. And it's just creating a lot of opportunity for so many more people who are involved in bringing a lot of what we know as the superstars of our industry to that status. It's bringing them tremendous opportunity to be larger parts of the puzzle and to just simply think differently. They've often been constrained to the standard record label model of putting out music videos, dropping an album, and now there's no rhyme or reason to how you can put something out. You can come up with a new way to do it any day.
I'm going to add on to that because I wholeheartedly agree. And I think that the music industry structure has been already starting to change, but what's happened with the increase of growth in metaverse and blockchain is that now artists of all sizes are questioning whether they need a record label of the same traditional type. They can get not just paid directly from fans, but they can get fans to invest in them, in their work. So they can get advances basically through fans or through different distribution outlets. I've talked to a couple of big artists who've said, I'm not so sure I want to sign up to my record label again. And they're not. They're going direct in many cases to all the digital services, and then looking at how do I even myself invest in a tech startup, and which one do I want to invest in. It's really kind of interesting because I talk to my colleagues who work with a lot of talent, and I work on the tech side, and we talk about how our clients are really aligned. The artists really are desperate to find ways to understand tech, work within the tech, to connect with fans, and that's how they're going to make their money too. The new distribution platforms, whether the artists go direct or through some of these new models, they're going to keep the lion's share of their revenue rather than giving it to a more traditional record label.
Yeah, I think here we have one of the most amazing things, which is technologists and creatives working directly in arm in arm. And I'm sure for you too, with the partnerships you're forming, I know you recently announced Jean-Michel Jarre, and
Yeah.
we have Louis from Vroom in the audience, who also worked with Jean-Michel Jarre for the New Year's Eve party in VR chat, which was a great success and very challenging. So we have these amazing experiences coming together that we see new technology being applied creatively, but also commercially. And within your platform, are you seeing the artists kind of guide and direct the way your company is also evolving?
Of course. We very much depend on creatives. We creativity centric company, and we want them to guide us as well in a way where we can't imagine. And the instance with Jean-Michel Jarre is one of them, where we can apply whatever we worked on to date, all the AI technologies, all the the 3D graphics, and all the creativity we accumulated ourselves, and combine this all to create something new and push the boundaries of this all. And the Metaverse is a marathon business, so we need to be patient with all of this, and it's a hard way, but I think we get there eventually. And creativity is one of the evolutionary things we possess. So I guess that's the way.
Yeah, live music is already immersive, experiential, interactive. You have lights, you have smoke. So already you can say it's a transcendent experience. And when we're looking at how we can recreate that sense in these virtual worlds and online spaces and have a social interactivity, getting lost on the way, buying merch. So creating everything that's really, really fun about a real concert experience and bringing that into virtual spaces is challenging with the technology.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I also think that you have something very interesting with these characters in your world. So the AI you're evolving, and they have different personalities, and they remember different audience members, if I'm not correct. So if you go back into the world, they remember who you are to some extent.
So this is part of user-generated content. So while all the other, most of the companies, they focus on building the worlds and providing all the tools and instruments for users to create these worlds. We are focusing on creating AAA environments ourselves to control the quality, and basically provide the tools for users to create the NPCs themselves. And here we have the identity, so the avatars, or the outer layers, all the clothing and stuff, and also their minds. And we have developed this artifact, gaming artifact we call Pyramid of Mind. And you can play, you can basically buy NFT of the mind of the character and mix it and match and create something that no one else even can imagine. So you take one piece from this personality, from that, and mix and match. And this we call dynamically created characters. Basically, this is a black box where you don't know what personality you can create. And by itself, this content, which is possible to be created by users, is a value, because you can create. We all know that we have virtual influencers right now, and they are rocking. And this is one of the ways for each user who even have a mobile phone to create their own virtual influencer now. And and one of the ways they can push their creativity forward as well. So anyone can be creative, really. And there are so many things to discuss, to be honest. Dance is another thing, which is another side of the music industry coin. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm very curious about the role that these characters play in the platform as well, because when you think of worlds that you can explore, like Fallout 4 has very rich characters within those environments that make it worthwhile to stay, to explore, to complete missions, and to come back and return and even going from the beginning to explore the stories in different ways and help out different characters, meet new characters. So are these AI characters, are they intended in that sense to make it a place that's very rich and very vibrant? Or is it also serve a different purpose, perhaps?
So they serve the purpose of populating the virtual worlds. But as I said, users themselves are in control of this process, which makes it very interesting as a game mechanic as well. So you imagine you waking up each morning and you have different personality of your virtual character. And a month ago, I created a character of Batman, and I was super excited to talk to Batman, and I was very thrilled, running like a kid around talking to it. So these kind of experiences is meant to be entertaining. So we are all about entertainment, and when you have a gang of these virtual beings with you, going to a virtual concert, and you have other friends talking to them, and then you can continue this experience to mobile. When your friends can talk to your virtual beings, you can create them, you can change their appearances, and so much more stuff to do. So I think it's pretty cool experience.
Yeah, I think it's certainly when I'm dropping into a lot of events like the Roblox ones or Decentraland, you see a lot of people going in, but you don't see a lot of people sticking around. And I think that's definitely a problem that it's a challenge to solve when we're experimenting with. It's no longer just a stage. It's actually you're building out a world, and you have to fill it with something that's interesting and a reason to be there. And for Shara and Liz, I think the avatar question is also very interesting, both on the investment side, but also in the way that's viewed within the music industry and how it's perceived with artists who perform. What is the movement happening in this space?
I think from an artist perspective, it depends a lot on the artist. Some of them get it right away. I know some artists that met gaming on Twitch, so they're the ones to jump in right at the beginning. And others, I think, they like the idea that they can control the art and the experience. I think some of them are still trying to understand it. But once they understand that their fans are there and that they can go in and connect with their fans in a dynamic way, that's when they start to really get interested, I think. I'm seeing the adoption on the artist, the creator side, perhaps first in electronic music and hip hop, maybe some pop artists. What I think we've all been talking about are a lot of the bigger artists have been hopping in, probably because they're getting paid a lot to start, right? But as the technology that you were talking about is really changing, what I'm excited to see is that this becomes more of a creator experience where there's user-generated content and every artist can actually be a part of it.
Yeah, we already touched on this super briefly, and Shara, this one is something you talked about as well, which is interoperability. And when you register an avatar on the blockchain, so you can move out of a platform in between worlds, is this something that's in the near future, or is that going to be possible in the long term?
I wish it would be as near term as tomorrow, but it's not yet. And what that simply means is that we're required, I'm kind of wearing my venture hat and looking at tech entrepreneurs to more think about how they think about what they're building. And when they're approaching a particular artist, we're seeing this a lot. There's a bit of a misunderstanding because they're approaching an artist saying, oh, well, come build with me because I have this tool set. However, they're not considering the fact that if an artist brings their fan base to an area or a platform that's then they're locked in there, and everything that they spend their money on to purchase is now locked in a particular environment until there's interoperability between chains, that creates a need for the artists to educate their fan base, which is incredibly challenging because I forget who mentioned earlier, the number of consumers that is within the crypto blockchain space right now is so small. I mean, we're talking about maybe 1 million people. We're not even close to the masses yet that are actively engaging. So when we ask fans to come into this experience, they have to go through a lot of hoops to engage or purchase. And so therefore tech entrepreneurs have to think about fiat on-ramps to allow for the consumers who don't have MetaMask wallets and don't have any understanding or education to even be able to engage. And then they have to consider the artist's experience with their own fans, in that they don't want to lock a fan base's hard-earned money, which Liz mentioned. How much money is a particular fan going to be willing to spend on their favorite artists' now new digital offerings? And what's great is that the digital offerings will give them more perks, more opportunity to get closer to their favorite artists. So in fact, it will be an evolution from the standard just buy a sweatshirt at a concert. That doesn't get you close to a particular artist. So there will be a lot of benefits, but there are definitely a lot of growing pains with the next that will occur over the next certainly 12 to 18 months before interoperability is really there in a way where consumers don't realize that they're jumping from chain to chain, and they don't even realize that they're on a blockchain. It reminds me of, like, obviously, I'm sure everyone is feeling the same of the early days of the internet, but we don't run around saying, I sent you an email on the internet. So when we remove kind of the blockchain speak and all of the crypto native buzzwords that are confusing the masses, then we're in a place where we can really scale. So I think we're going to see that accelerate over the next certainly 12 to 24 months, but it can't come soon enough for many reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we're getting close to the end of the panel now, so I want to just leave it open to our panelists actually to say anything that we haven't talked about today that they really want to share, something they've learned that maybe has changed the way they approach what they do today after a year has passed with their learnings. And then we'll open up the floor to Q&A. Daniel?
I just wanted to add to the matter of, using the same sort of characters, avatars, in multiple games or environments. I think it is possible if everyone will work together. So let's say, recently I was thinking about something like, like league, Metaverse league, where everyone develop the standard, and you can use your character, buy one character in the character in one place, or avatar or item, and you can use it everywhere else, which is cool thing by itself, because you want to play MMO and go to work meeting with your cool knife or the gun or anything else, and in your cool avatar. So that's the future definitely, and I think that needs to be work of not one company, and it must be as someone said, Metaverse is not business of one company, it's many companies, so or many creators.
Yeah, thank you. Liz?
I think what I am excited about and realizing from the music perspective is that I genuinely think this is the biggest opportunity for the music industry in a long time. It's complicated right now from the vantage that I look at it, because I'm a lawyer and I deal with rights, and there's a lot to parse. But I think it's super exciting. I keep saying it's like, it reminds me of the time right after Napster, only there's a lot more excitement from the music industry, whether it's artists or record labels or any of the rights holders, and there's investment in the space. Everybody's trying to work it out, and we got digital music worked out quickly. Only it took 10 years or so. So I think maybe we can make this happen in a couple of years, but I think there's a ton of opportunity.
Thank you. And Shara?
Yeah, I would just add that I think that from an investment standpoint, there's so much out there that there's a new opportunity to find what you're passionate about by being in the community. I think that we're seeing VCs be a part of NFT communities, be existing playing games in a way that hasn't happened in the past. Usually there was a gap between the two, and now I think you can find really cool companies by just thinking about what it is that you'd like to see. So, like, for example, I've been very deep into the NFT space. And about 6 months ago, I was like, I wish these NFTs could have a brain so they could function on their own and be able to like grow into extremely unique assets that were far beyond what I purchased. And so I went down a rabbit hole and found a protocol that is effectively building brains for NFTs. And that came entirely out of, I wish that this could happen. And so I think there are so many talented, brilliant, creative entrepreneurs solving for just creating in a new way, actually solving less. It's not about solving problems, and it's more creating new opportunities. And that tiny shift is incredibly exciting on the investment side.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. It's been fascinating to
you.
hear your stories. So big round of applause to every panelist. So I think we have 10 minutes for a Q&A. We have a couple minutes for a Q&A. So
I'll go first then. Hey there, my name is Scott Clark with a company called Heavy.io, and we're in the NFT and AR space. We're talking about some of the interactive stuff in the game environments, but a lot of what we've really seen, particularly through the pandemic, with fan and artist interaction is really like the Zoom meet and greet or live chat or help pick the set list and this kind of stuff, which is super cool and way more than you would typically have. But curious if you guys have seen things that are more fan art, more co-creation, more truly interactive, where you're welcoming your fan community into that creative process. Not saying for your entire album, but as its own thing. And curious if you're seeing that and if we're in a good opportunity here in the market for that kind of thing to happen.
I can take that one too. Am I still up there? Yep. Okay, great. So Liz, I know you wanted to say something too. I'll just jump in quickly. I will definitely say we're in an incredible place for that. There are a couple of amazing artists and producers that are working on some unbelievable redefinition of the generative art and generative creation, and creating opportunities for fans to work and collaborate on music, to actually be a part of the creation of music, to be a part of the creation of their art. We're definitely seeing the cliche word of utility being pushed. These are projects that are not necessarily out yet, but are being worked on heavily so that it goes far beyond just the traditional perk. And I think as other artists who haven't stepped in or have done just sort of the bare minimum of offer a backstage pass or a Zoom meet and greet, once they see the level that other artists are pushing the envelope on utility and engagement and what that really means, I think those earlier artists who dip their toe in with kind of just minimal offerings will really step up their game.
thank you. We've got one more question.
My name is Scott Riley. I'm really interested in live music performance being broadcast. And it seems entirely possible to have photorealistic avatars being animated by the live musician in a virtual reality space and have that broadcast. And I'm wondering, I haven't heard anybody here yet speak to that, and I was wondering what gets in the way of that happening.
So I can speak to that. It's actually something that Wave is doing now. I know, Roblox, Fortnite, and Minecraft have also featured avatar-based experiences. The technology right now, what happens is the artist will put on what's called a mocap suit, which tracks their movement, and they've designed ahead of time their avatar, and the whole experience around them. So they are basically in the room with all their fans who are also avatars. And then the fans can do things like in the Wave shows, they can change the course of the story concert. So during the Weekend Wave show, for example, the fans could vote do you want the Weeknd to pick up the frog and lick it, or do you want, what do you want the experience to look like? So that's happening, I think, more and more. The technology of those mocap suits and the motion captures is evolving as well. I think over time, that's going to make it more democratic so that the production costs aren't going to be as high, and you'll see a lot more artists being able to do that, maybe even from home.
Yeah, we all have our, iPhone, this is iPhone 12. You can already capture LiDAR and 3D imagery from this, and there's a lot of cameras out there that can transform 2D videos into 3D avatars, and it's very early stage, but very soon this is going to be the norm, and I think it's going to happen in the next couple of years.
I think the challenge here as well for specifically DJ performances and virtual worlds is to sync your movements and precision of using the equipment. So when you approach the DJ and see how he or she plays, you can see that the same, basically what he or she does is repeated in the virtual world. And this is something we worked on and to quite successful extent. And we can actually sync now with very fine precision all the the adjustments and all the play of the equipment with the DJ. So yeah, it's pretty current thing, and I think we will see more live performances. I think the only other challenge would be is latency, and internet is not great everywhere. And here, most of the companies should probably look at edge technologies and working with telecoms and who are actually waiting
Yeah.
for those partnerships.
And pixel streaming, which is en route, which is here. It's a little expensive at the moment, but it's browser-based. I think we're at time. But so I want to say thanks again to our panelists for being here. Thanks, Shara, for joining us remotely, and for Liz and Daniel in person.
Thank you.
And I think there's another panel after, but our panelists, if we can all meet outside, we'll be around for more questions. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for
Yeah.
speaking. It's great to have you guys. I was actually wanting to tell you one thing real quick. It's interesting. We've had so many periods throughout history where we've had basically enlightenment and creative enlightenment. And we've had periods where there's just a lot of dullness. And, it's very wonderful to see people thinking outside the box like you guys are, because if we really do that and encourage others to do it, we're going to see that. I think we'll see a great period of creative enlightenment and creativity like we haven't seen before, because we have new tools that we didn't have before. So thank you for presenting your talk today. And there are some questions at the back, so you guys just chat with him back there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.